Hello, my name is Ashley Brooks, and I will be doing a speech called The Children's Era by Margaret Zanger, delivered on March 1925 in New York. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, my subject is the children's era. The children's era. This makes me think of Ellen Key's book, The Century of the Child. Ellen Key hopes that the 20th century was to be the century of the child. The 20th century, she said, would see this old world of ours converted into a beautiful garden of children. Well, we have already lived through a quarter of the 20th century. What steps have we taken towards making it the century of the child? So far, very, very few. Why does the children's era still remain a dream of the dim and the distant future? Why has so many been accomplished? In spite of all our acknowledged love of children, all our generosity, all our goodwill, all the enormous spending of millions on philanthropy and charities, all our warm-hearted sentiment, all our incessant activity, and our social consequences. Why? Before you can cultivate a garden, you must know something about gardening. You have got to give your seeds and proper soil in which to grow. You have got to give the sunlight and fresh air. You have got to give them space and opportunity. If they are to lift their flowers to the sun, to strive their roots deep into the soil, and always, do not forgive this, you have got to fight weeds. You cannot have a garden if you let weeds overrun it. So, if we want to make this world a garden of children, we must first all learn the lesson of the gardener. So far, we have not been gardeners. We have only been a sort of silly reception committee. A reception committee at the Grand Central Station of life. Trainload after trainload of children are coming in, day and night. Nameless refugees arriving out of nowhere into the here. Trainload after trainload, many welcome, unwelcome, unprepared for, unknown, without baggage, without passports, most of them without pedigrees. These unlimited hordes of refugees arrives in such numbers that the reception committee is thrown into a panic of activity. The reception committee arouses itself bureaucratically, establish emergency measures, milk stations, maternity centers, settlement houses, playgrounds, orphanage, welfare leagues, and conceivable kind of charitable effort. But still, trainloads of children keep coming. Human weeds crop up, spread fast in this sinister struggle for existence. That the overworked committee becomes exhausted and inefficient and can think of no way out. When we protest against this immeasurable, meaningless waste of motherhood and child life, when we protest against ever-mounted cost to the world, asylums, prisons, homes for the feeble-minded, and such institutions for the unfit, when we protest against the disorder and the chaos and tragedy of human life, when we put out the biological corruption that is destroying the very heart of American life, we are told that we are making merely an emotional appeal when we point the one immediate practical way towards order and beauty in a society. We only way to lay the foundation of a society composed of happy children, happy women, and happy men. They call this idea indecent and immoral. It is not enough to clean up the filth and the disorder of our overcrowded cities. It is not enough to stop the evil of children labor, even if we could. It is not enough to decrease the rate of infant mortality. It is not enough to open playgrounds and build more public schools in which we can standardize the mind of the young. It is not enough to throw millions upon millions of dollars into charities and philanthropies. Don't deceive ourselves that by doing what we are making the world safe for children. Those of you who have followed the sessions of this conference must, I am sure, agreed with me that first real shot towards the creation of the children's era must lie in providing the conditions of healthy life for children, not only before birth, but even more interactively. Before conception, human society must protect its children. Yes, but neonatal care is most essential. The child to be, as yet, not called into being as rights, no less, imperative. We have learned that the preceding sessions of this conference that if we wish to produce in strong, sturdy children, the embryo must grow in a chemically healthy medium. The bloodstream of the mother must be chemically normal. Worry, strain, shock, unhappiness, forced maternity may all poison the blood of the enslaved mother. This chemically poisoned blood may produce a defective baby, a child foredoomed to idiocy and feeble-mindedness, crime, or failure. Do I exaggerate? I am taking a rare exception and making it a general rule. Our opponents declare that children are conceived with love and that every newborn baby conceived its parents to love and unselfishness. My answer is to point out that the asylums and the hospitals, the ever-growing institution for the unfit, look into the family history of those who are feeble-minded for being the bars of the jails and the prisons. Trace the family histories. Find out the conditions under which we were conceived and born before you attempt to persuade us that reckless breeding has nothing to do with these grave questions. There's only one way out. We have got to fight for the health and the happiness of the unborn child. And to do that is in a practical, tangible way. We have got to free women from enforced, enslaved maternity. There can be no hope for the future of the civilization or no certainty for racial salvation until every woman can decide for herself whether she will or will not become a mother, and when or how many children she cares for to bring into the world. That is the first step. I would like to suggest silver service examinations for parenthood. Prospective parents, after such examination, would be given a parenthood license, providing that they are physically and mentally fit to be the fathers and the mothers of the next generation. This is an interesting idea, but arises the questions, who is to decide? Would there be a jury, like a pay jury? Would a Republican administration give parenthood permits only to Republicans, or perhaps only to Democrats? The more you think of governmental inference, the less it works out. Take this plan of civil service examination for parenthood. It suggests prohibition. There might even be bootlegging and babies. No, I doubt that advisability of governmental sanctions. The problem of bringing children into the world ought to be decided by those most seriously involved, those who run the greatest risks, and the last analysis by the mother and the child. If there is going to be any service examination, let it be conducted by the unborn child, the child to be. Just try for a moment to picture the possibilities of such examination. When you want a cook or a housemaid, you go to the employment bureau. You have to answer questions. You have to exchange references. You have to persuade the talented cook that you conducted a proper, well-known household. Children ought to have at least the same privilege as cooks. Sometimes idle moments, I like to think it would be very good to have burial of the children to be. At such a burial of unborn and wise children might be able to find out a few things about its father and its mother. But think for a moment of this burial where prospective parents might apply for a baby. Think about the questions. They would be asked by the agent of the unborn, or by the baby itself. First, Mr. Father, a baby is an expensive luxury. Can you really afford one? Have you paid for the last baby yet? How many children have you already? 6? You must have had your hands full. Can you take care of so many? Do you look upon children as an reward or a penalty? How are you ductless glands? Well balanced? Can you provide a happy home for one? A sunny nursery? Proper food? What's that you say? 10 children already? 2 dark rooms in the slum? No, thank you. I don't care to be born at all if I cannot be well born. Goodbye. And if we could organize a society for the prevention of cruelty to unborn children, we would make it a law that children should be brought into the world only when they are welcomed, invited, and wanted. That they would arrive with a clean bill of health and heritage. That they would they would possess healthy, happy, well-mated, and mature parents. And there would be certain conditions and circumstances which would preclude parenthood. These conditions, the presence of which would make parenthood a crime, are the following. 1. Transmissible disease. 2. Temporary disease. 3. Subnormal children already in a family. 4. Space out between births. 5. 23 years as a minimum age for parents. 6. Economic circumstances adequate. 7. Spiritual harmony between the parents. In conclusion, let me repeat, we are not trying to establish a dictatorship over parents. We want to free women from slavery and unwilling motherhood. We are fighting for the emancipation for the mothers of the world, of the children of the world, and the children to be. We want to create a real century of the children. Usher in a children's era. We can do this by handling the traffic gifts of life in bodies fit and perfect as can be fashioned. Help us to make this conference, which has aroused so much interest, the turning point towards this era. Only so can you help in the creation of the future. Thank you.